Welcome to the Philocrosophy podcast, where host and lacrosse expert Jamie Monroe will do what he does best, talk about lacrosse. Each episode will provide listeners with education, insights, stories, and lessons about the lacrosse world. We will discuss current events, coaching, philosophies, and college lacrosse recruiting. Now let's get started with your host, Jamie Monroe.
How's it going, everybody? Really excited to welcome Tim McCormack to the Philocrosophy podcast. Tim is the brand new head coach for Arizona State women's lacrosse. Playing days, played at UMass, was a goalkeeper, and as an assistant coach, he moved on to Northwestern. He's got an awesome history, incredible passion for the game, and congrats on the job, Tim. Really fired up to have you on the show, too.
Thanks a lot, Jamie. I'm excited to touch base and hopefully, explore some cool things here.
Yeah, no doubt.
The Philocrosophy podcast is made possible in part by the JM3 video assessment tool. There's no question that video is critical to player development. One way or another, your son or daughter must utilize video to learn their game and the game. To learn more, see video testimonials, or register, go to www.jm3sports.com/video right now.
So are you totally drinking out of a fire hose right now as a brand new head coach?
Yeah, I am. A lot happened in a quick amount of time. It's funny because a lot of times you get this job, a lot of people get this job right in the heavy recruiting season. So, yeah. When you're moving halfway across the country in particular, you're not really able to get settled. My family and I weren't able to get our feet settled for about a month. And we finally did. We just did a road trip out a couple days ago. Took a few days to, make it a fun trip and stopped in a couple of cool places along the way. And we're here now. And I'm thrilled to be out here. It's really exciting time.
It's awesome, man. How sick is ASU?
Unreal. Unbelievable. I mean, the place is just phenomenal. Palm trees everywhere you walk. Beautiful campus. And the people are amazing. I mean, this athletic department is so supportive of everything and the vision and the goal that I've brought forward to them. And it's just, it's a really cool time. And I'm excited to get people out here, see what we have to offer and really just kind of, show this place off a little.
Yeah. And you're in an awesome conference. You're a new program, but you're not a startup. And so that brings both the challenges of, trying to bring your culture to the program, but also at least you can kind of get going with some sophomores and juniors. But talk to us a little bit about how excited you are about competing in the Pac-12 and what, even though you don't know what you have quite yet, some of your excitement along those lines.
Definitely. So, yeah, still figuring out the puzzle pieces. I've watched a bunch of games since I got the job and even before, just to kind of see what was out there. And in all honesty, I mean, there are a lot of really talented kids on this roster just from what I've seen and talking to my contacts in the club world and everything and just kind of doing my homework that way. There are some kids that could play, some really, really good athletes. I'm excited to get together with all of these guys and get on the field and get after it. As far as the Pac-12 goes, I mean, they get 3 teams in the tournament last year. So just a really, really tough conference and, want to make an impact right away. I mean, you got to look at the league and the first thing I think that jumps out is the connections to Northwestern, which is pretty cool. Yeah. 4 of the 6 coaches were affiliated with Northwestern at some point.
Amazing.
Yeah. I mean, just unbelievable and pretty cool for the conference as a whole. I think some of the strides that you've seen these teams make in such a short amount of time has been unprecedented. And that's where we're trying to fill in. I mean, we're trying to come in and do the same thing. And that's the goal. And getting everyone to work together and compete at a high level every single day is going to be, something that we stress and a really important piece to kind of get into there. And we're excited to do that.
So you've got Arizona State, Oregon, Colorado, USC, Stanford, and Cal, 6 teams. it's big time football, big time athletics, and great academics. 3 teams from that 6-team conference to the NCAA tournament in 2019 is sick. And it's also the way your guys' schedule works out is so cool because you get to play a home and home with everybody.
Absolutely.
In the conference.
Absolutely. Yeah. So just completely unique way of thinking about scheduling for sure. By playing each team twice, you don't see that in lacrosse much, but definitely works out with where we're at, where we're located. And obviously, as we've seen, it works out with, the standings and all of the things that you want for the end of the year. I mean, when you get, 6 good teams to just compete week to week, your RPI is getting better. Everything is kind of just enhanced within the conference. And I think that's the reason you're seeing, 3 teams get in and maybe in the future, even more than that. And no doubt about it. I mean, you hit the nail on the head as far as just overall athletics. It's an amazing conference to be in, just really, really cool to be a part of it. And can't wait to see where it continues to go.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's, when you're a team in the West, scheduling is a pain in the butt until now you've got the home and home. It's like, all right, well, I got 5 Pac-12 games at home, so that's huge.
Yep.
And now I just got to go out and, pay some guarantees or do whatever you got to do to bring some other big-time programs out, there are other Western teams that need games, so
Yep.
a bunch of those California and some Colorado teams. You guys have, great weather. So for the early season, as we know, lacrosse, men's and women's, it's an outdoor winter sport. So better place to be than down in Arizona for February and March. So you should be able to really attract teams to come play you guys, which at whatever level you need, whether it's to boost your RPI or to get yourself some 50-50 ball games, whatever it is. So that's awesome. You got to be fired up about the scheduling opportunities and kind of where it's at.
Very, very excited about it. You hit the nail on the head. I mean, this is a destination type place for a lot of these teams. Unfortunately, this year we kind of came into it when everyone was already halfway through their schedules. But looking forward, I mean, I've had so many people reach out to me like, hey, let's get this thing done. Like, let's do it. Great teams, really, really high profile programs from back on the East, from Midwest, and just, looking to get a good solid game in great weather and come out here. So you're spot on with that. And I think the opportunities that brings for us, adding a few really high level home games every single year because of the destination is going to be huge for us for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. Let's turn the clock back for a second. You grew up in Long Island. You went to UMass. You're goalkeeper. Tell us a little bit about your years at UMass as a player, and then when you decided that you wanted to be a coach, and then how you actually got into women's lacrosse.
Yeah, absolutely. So UMass was just an amazing opportunity for myself. Playing for Coach Greg Cannella was a life-changing experience for me. He really was the type of person that tried to see the best in everybody and really, really put a ton of trust and faith in me my first couple years as a backup goalie. I backed up Doc Schneider, who was an All-American and later on became my coach. Yep. Legitimately, I'd have to say the best leader I've ever played for and continues to do that with the athletes over there today. So sitting behind him was an experience in itself. But as we all know, sometimes backing up, especially when, and you see this all the time at this level, you've been so successful throughout your whole youth and high school career. It was definitely an adjustment, but not for one day did Coach Cannella ever turn his back on me or not trust me or kind of write me off as like the second guy. He held me to just as a high standard as he did with the rest of those guys. And in all honesty, those guys in that leadership group like I said, I mentioned Doc and another guy that comes to mind as far as leadership and toughness goes, Joey Reale. Those guys made me feel that way as well. So going on to that program, although I was a backup, not for a day did I feel like I was not contributing to the greater good of the team. And I also think that experience helped me paint a better picture for a coach. You know, a lot of times coaches were the guy that stepped on as a freshman and played every game and contributed right away. And it's hard to relate to the other 20 people on your roster who aren't doing that on a daily basis, where I feel like I can. You know, a couple of points that we learned throughout there. So that's kind of just my experience as a player. Obviously, fought it out for a spot my third year there, and was fortunate enough to earn it, and ended up playing for the next three. I had a red shirt
in 1 year, and then we're a 3-year starter.
Correct. Yep. So red shirt in 1 year, three-year starter, and you know, learned a lot. So a couple of points on that. Number one, and I think that, you know, you'll remember this from your playing days. You'll remember this from your coaching and watching days. Just toughness. I mean, we knew that any team that was coming onto that field with us was going to leave knowing that they played a tough game, whether win, lose, or draw. They were going to leave that field knowing, wow, those guys were on us. And that was just kind of the culture, and it almost kind of created itself. You know, we talked about it on a daily basis for sure. The leaders did, and coach preached it, and you know, the assistants did as well. But at the end of the day, when we stepped onto the campus, we knew that was kind of our identity. We were a little bit under-recruited group. We had a chip on our shoulder always, and we played really, really hard, and we practiced really hard. And I think that, you know, those things, the combination of all of those things, you know, created this culture of just kind of toughness, never give up, and kind of in-your-face mentality for 60 minutes. And it was a lot of fun. Met a lot of great guys, talked about a couple of leaders there, played with a lot of incredible players as well. You know, and I mean, this list could go on, but just to mention a couple, you know, Art Kell was an attackman that I played with, that was a senior with me. And that kid was just, you know, really just a big body, strong kid, able to get to the cage, attackman. Anthony Biscardi was another guy. This guy just bred toughness. He was one of those guys that, you know, smaller guy, under-recruited, lefty, had a cannon from the outside. You know, earlier in my career, Jimmy Connolly was just an amazing attackman. Timmy Belize had a cannon from the outside. I mean, just a lot of really good players. And then later we had some more skilled players, and a guy like Will Manny, who came in and, you know, was just so dynamic. Obviously still playing today, and taught me so much about the game, and honestly made me a better goalie on a daily basis. So playing alongside of some of these guys was just, you know, really, really incredible experience. And in all honesty, it was a tremendous piece to kind of my coaching philosophy, my style, and who I am today, for sure. So
how did you get into coaching women's lacrosse?
So that's a great question. Out of college, I knew I wanted to coach. I always wanted to coach. I remember I was in 8th grade coaching the 5th grade team, my brother's 5th grade team. And I was sitting down with a couple of good young mentors as a young guy. And I mean, I'm literally in 8th grade, so I haven't even got to high school. And I'm sitting down with my coaching mentors just saying, like, you know, teach me this motion offense. I want to install it and stuff like that. So I knew I wanted to coach. I knew I wanted to be around the game. And so after school, that was kind of the natural progression. Just figure it out, grind it out. At the time, it was men's in my mind. I was like, okay, like, this is what I had really never thought about doing the women's game. And, you know, I had a couple of decent opportunities. One was with the Holy Cross team, and you know, a couple of pretty good opportunities. And I was about a day away from accepting that opportunity.
Holy Cross men's or women's?
Holy Cross men's. And I got a call from Scott Hiller, who, for me, right, this is a UMass legend. This guy's, you know, name is all over the posters over there, and, you know, U.S. team, and just a straight UMass legend. And in all honesty, that kind of sparked my interest. And then he brought it a step further and mentioned Northwestern. And at that point in my career, when I thought women's lacrosse, when I heard the sport, someone said women's lacrosse, my mind immediately went to Northwestern, just from the history, the success.
Yeah.
So kind of those two things, Scotty being Scotty and just being the legend at my alma mater, combined with the fact that it was kind of this larger than life entity in Northwestern. I was like, you know what? Called my wife, like my future wife at the time. What do you think? She said, listen, go out there, see what you think. And that was it. You know, I was hooked. I told both of those guys on my interview, I said, listen, I don't know one rule. I'm just telling you straightforward. I could teach a goalie to stop the ball. I'm pretty confident I could do that, but I don't know any of the rules. We'll have to figure this out. And they were very clear with, hey, that's okay. We'll get you there together. And, you know, they did. And that fall was a big time learning experience coming from just like a men's brain and the whole shooting space. I could get into every little nuance that I had to figure out, but it was an amazing experience nonetheless.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. So my first year of coaching girls lacrosse was this year, where I coached high school girls lacrosse, and it's a little bit of a learning curve. But I think what you also find is, you know, lacrosse is lacrosse.
Yep.
There's a few rules differences, but leadership is leadership. Lacrosse is lacrosse, and obviously you really love coaching this game and coaching the kids. You guys really had a great run this past year, going to the Final Four. It was kind of a build-up over the course of the years you were there. How many years? 5 years?
6 years. Yep. So I was there for 6 years. Had a Final Four run on my first year, which was unreal. I mean, honestly, can't even really describe how cool that was, because as you said, lacrosse is lacrosse. And forever I was, you know, wanted to be at that pinnacle. I watched it on TV. I recorded games as a young kid on VHSs and replayed them 100 times and, you know, envisioned it for years and years. And you know, we had a good chance to do it, to replicate it as a player. We had a good chance. We fell short. And I just always wanted to get there. So to get there, see it, it was out at United Stadium in Towson, and just I'll never forget kind of the whole weekend of events where, you know, we had the banquet thing, and it was just a really unforgettable, you know, stretch. Had some tremendous players on that team, learned so much that year as a coach, and obviously from mentors and Kelly, Amonte, and Scott Hiller. Worked with Danielle Spencer, and just had an amazing year and experience. And, you know, I think back to like some of those players. Alyssa Leonard was just lights out. She basically, in a nutshell, taught me how valuable the draw was that year. So I learned that pretty quickly in our game, how valuable that was. And a couple of good defenders we had, athletic defenders, Kate McDonald, Kerry Harrington. These are kids that I had a chance to really work closely with. Christy Turner, mentor these guys, Bridget Bianco in the goal. And, you know, like I said, I mean, that experience I'll never forget. Then, you know, it was kind of a rebuild. And I think for a few years there, we were just trying to find, you know, a couple of pieces to put together and develop our leadership and continue to pound the culture piece of everything, and chipped away at that. And we had a lot of great players throughout that span too. And then you kind of fast forward to my last year there, and we're able to get into another Final Four. Again, another unforgettable experience. Got a chance to coach some of the best players of all time. You know, the first name that comes to mind is Selena Lasota, and you know, we've all seen what she could do, and you know what she did to the game. In my opinion, she really kind of opened a lot of eyes to a lot of coaches and a lot of players in her style of play, and to me too. And you know, so just coaching her was just amazing. Had a few really good players on that group as well, and just an awesome experience. Throughout that time, I had a chance to coach with some great coaches too. You know, so obviously Kelly and Scott throughout, just incredible mentors, taught me everything really that I know about this game and this sport and what it takes to be successful. And you know, as the assistants, I mentioned Danielle, Hannah Nielsen, I got to share an office with Hannah and work closely with Hannah Nielsen. That was an awesome experience to get her kind of vibe on things and see, her perspective. And as of late, Hannah Murphy, who was just awesome as well, younger, but just really clued into the game, had a tremendous expertise at the draw, and picked her brain on a daily basis as well. So incredible 6 years for sure.
Paint us a picture of Kelly Amonte Hiller. I mean, she's a Hall of Fame caliber coach. She's won 7 national championships. She's good person, nice, intense, smart, inquisitive. Those are the things that come to mind for me. How do you sort of characterize her, and what did you take from your experiences working for her?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to put it all of it into words, from the positivity that she brings, the vision that she brings as far as, experiences, and I'll get into that a little bit, to the fact that she, as the best coach of all time, continues to learn on a daily basis. I mean, it was unreal. I'll start with the positivity. And this was something that, early on in my career, I was this young kid and I was kind of like, oh man, we did this and we messed this up and we did this. And she always had the positives in it. It was always like, okay, but we did this, this, and this. And I remember kind of being like, all right, there is 2 ways to look at this. You're right. We did do those things well, and always, scrapping or clawing even sometimes to see the positives in every situation. That was just, for me, a huge, exploration to kind of like put myself in that. Then I started to do it, like, okay, there is a positive here. What is it? And just painting a vision, right? I consider that positivity as well, where, I asked some of the older alumni, and, it's a fairly young program. So I had touches with all of these people that she's ever coached, and just, what was it, guys? Like, what was the thing? And she, their thing was positivity and belief. The fact that she believed in them and just had this kind of like sense of, we're going to do this thing on a daily basis. In 3+ years, 4 years later, that team that was her first class wins a championship.
That's amazing.
Unreal.
Year 4. She wins a championship in year 4
year 4. Yeah. So you take the kids that you instilled this belief and positivity in, and you see where it takes you, and that's where it took them. And that was the common theme amongst every single alumni. I've come across 90% of them, I would say. And that's the common theme. I asked them all the same thing. Like, what was it? What was it about this experience? And that's it. It's those 2 things. Now, even further, she just tends to push this game forward, in my personal opinion. And that's what I saw. We played games at Wrigley Field. I mean, just there's nobody doing stuff like that in women's lacrosse right now. And that just is an incredible experience. We did a training trip out in Malibu, California with the team. And, these are things that are really –
put a little private concert on for you guys?
He did. Yeah. So what is kind of the thought there? What did I learn there as a future coach? Experiences, right? These kids are going to walk away with just top-notch, amazing life experiences. And that was kind of a priority. Play on TV, right? Make pushes to do these bigger, cooler, better things. And that taught me so much, it really did, where like that was undervalued for me. I was just kind of just there, and I was like, let's go play. I'll go play in a parking lot, whatever, which has its upside. And, I definitely still would, but to create those types of experiences for kids and let them take those and run with those, you really can't beat that. And then the last piece, just learning. I mean, to be as successful as that, but continue to want to learn, pick the brains of people who, are like yourself, and, whether it's a sports scientist or whoever,
Anybody, right?
anybody that's going to bring an ounce of value, that was amazing. And that, again, I mean, as a coach, and now like in my role, that was probably my biggest takeaway. Always learn, there's always room to get better. Where are you going to get your edge, and continue to look for it. So those are my kind of things, as a mentor that I felt like she brought from me.
And now you're taking that on to your own head job. And we were talking about this. I mean, it's, you're a new parent and a new head coach. There's nothing that can actually prepare you for those things. The books, you can read all the books you want, but you just got to start experiencing it. The book stops with you, but tell us a little bit about your vision on how you want to build your culture at ASU.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, here at Arizona State, I want kids, I want kids to love this game. Honestly, I want their 2 hours of practice to be their best 2 hours of the day. If we could replicate that, if we could kind of instill that, right, and with that, you're going to be working hard. You're going to be, put into tough scenarios. But regardless, when that 2 hour block, that's your best 2 hours. We're going to maximize every possible thing that we could do as a group. With that, I want to instill a sense of toughness in there. That's kind of like going to bring my UMass background. We're gonna do things the right way, and we are gonna push people into the workforce ready, to get after it, ultimately, right, while competing for Pac-12 championships and further, and that's kind of the goal here, is just, create people who are fully ready to be immersed into this world and have an amazing experience while doing it, and compete at the highest level on a daily basis, and for me, that starts, as I began with here, with practice, and if we make that 2 hour stretch our best 2 hours of the day every day, the sky's the limit, and that's kind of the goal there. Identify leaders early. That's kind of where I'm at right now, is just, figuring out who's going to be our leaders. We all know the importance of leaders and how, far that will help and take this group. And that's kind of the process we're in right now. And then from there, just results will follow.
The Philocrosophy podcast is brought to you in part by the JM3 Coaches Training Program. If you are a coach interested in sharpening your saw, like so many of the guests on the show, you are going to love the content in this program. Go to www.jm3coaches.com for more information.
How do you want to play? What's going to be like the style of play that you focus on both sides of the ball?
We'll look at the offensive side of the ball. We're going to be an up-tempo group. We're going to push it, at any chance we get. I think, attacking early in transition in kind of unsettled situations is going to be something you're going to see a lot out of us. You and I have talked a lot about scramble, GBO. Those will be kind of like automatics, right? Ball goes down, we're moving it, and we're trying to get up and look for a good quality shot. On the settled side of that, we'll play a box styled offense, with a lot of 2-man game, a lot of cut the middle and cycle on the backside, getting the guys at X involved as well. And I think just, having that 2-man philosophy, with our strong hands, being okay with playing with our strong hands. And I think that might be a little bit against the grain, but that's something that, I see a ton of value in. And when you watch some of the best box players, you see how efficient it really could be. I think everyone needs an outlet pass with their offhand for sure. You might need to finish it down low in a lefty point spot or a lefty fast break spot, occasionally too. But, as far as two-man goes and all that stuff, if you keep it in your strong hand and just work for high percentage shots, get over the top, get underneath, but get to the middle with your strong hand upfield and get good quality shots.
Yeah.
As far as the D goes, I want to be, discipline is probably the number one word that comes to mind for me. Be extremely disciplined, play really, really good angles, and be ready to pounce on every loose ball. I think playing a good team style defense with a lot of communication, I'm one of the type of coaches that's going to be okay with switching back and forth from man to man to zone. But the key components are, let's be really, really disciplined in what we do. And what I mean by that is just simple things. If someone throws a pump fake, don't leave your feet, right? If someone goes from a double to a triple threat position, there's no reason to rise up. Sit low, understand that if you're on the ball, your job is to cover the ball. If you're off the ball, your job is to cover the cutters first, and then play good, solid help defense as well. In this game, there's only one area you could score from. So let's make sure that we dominate the middle of the field. And when that ball goes down, like I said, let's compete for it and come up with it.
So you guys, back to your offensive topic, you guys did a lot of two-man game at Northwestern, and you kind of, I feel like over the years, the same was true in men's lacrosse. There was a time when people were like, don't bring another defender to the ball. And I feel like that has been in men's lacrosse, that has gone by the wayside. I think in women's lacrosse, it's going by the wayside. People are realizing that it's actually more difficult to play a two-man situation, and you're still dodging.
Right.
Now you have two people that have to communicate. And not only that, now you've only got 5 people on the other side of the field. So if they slide, there's 4 guarding 5 instead of 5 guarding 6. So there are advantages to these 2- and 3-man games. Can you just elaborate a little bit on your thought process and how you're going to try to take it to another level?
Totally. So the simple thought on just offense in general is create an advantage, right? So people are just so much more athletic nowadays, and bigger, faster, stronger, and I'm talking about from a defensive side. So where in the past you could create an advantage by simply doing a split left to right split dodge down the alley, getting a step on someone, drawing a slide and kicking it. You could probably still do that occasionally as well, and some teams make a living off of it. But another way to create an advantage, the way that we will, is, as you said, bring 2 to the ball. So now immediately you're creating communication. Communication creates an advantage for the offense because we've all been there. You gotta be perfect on the D end. You have to, if it's a switch, you have to switch appropriately. If you're going to get through, you got to make a decision whether you're going under, over. So, you are now creating an advantage without having to get a 20-yard run at someone, shoot a bad angle shot, or, roll back and jam the ball opposite. So right away, just by, standing still next to one of your players, you created an advantage. Now it's about kind of the next steps. You got action on the backside. So keep the backside occupied. If anyone tries to ball watch from that area of the field, let's make sure we get a good hard back door on them. And if we could hit that player, great. If not, what do they have to do? They're going to obviously have to cover that in giving us a better angle to either get over the top or underneath of our picker and get to those high percentage areas. So I think in a nutshell, when you think about it, it's just all about creating an advantage for your team and how to do it as simply as possible. The simplest way to do it is to make the defense make a bad read. And by bringing 2 to the ball, the more times you bring 2 to the ball, the more bad reads that the defense has the ability to make. So, I don't think that there's a limit to how many times you can run it. You could run it 10 times in a possession as we've seen before you get the look that you want. But the more constant you continue to bring two there, and the more they have to talk and the more movements they have to make perfectly, the better chance you have to get to the cage and get yourself an available shot.
The late great Dave Huntley had a bunch of stats done for I don't know, something like 10,000 or 13,000 shots in the MLL over the course of 2 years, I think 2015 and 2016. And what they came up with was the scoring percentages were higher on two-man situations than isolation for those exact reasons. Likewise, he always talked about, you referenced this, alley dodges versus coming to the middle. You referenced, you don't mind if players are pretty one-handed because there's stats that prove from those same 13,000 shots that literally in every quadrant that they broke it into, they broke their, in the MLL, they broke it into 27 quadrants or something. In every quadrant except dead center, the scoring percentage was higher when the stick was to the middle. So as a right-hander, dodging from the wing to the middle, either underneath your man or over the top of your man, gives you a better angle. And this is really what you're sort of talking about of why you believe that you can have like these Canadian type of box style players.
Exactly why. To kind of expand on that, my defensive philosophy, to go a little deeper into that is, and I talked about discipline and angles, right? So it's the flip. It's the complete opposite. Let's give the alley dodge. Let's encourage the alley dodges. Strong hand, weak hand, whatever. Get the hand to the outside, encourage it, play good solid D, sit low, get on the hip, give up those shots from the 8-meter arms, and you're in a great spot, right, to play good, successful defense. I call those plus ones. That's what I call those. And I kind of have like a scale of, what's a good shot to give up, what's a bad shot to give up. You get a +1 for a good one. You get a -1 for a bad one. And I think, one of my philosophies is that, I'm a type of coach that I'll give up 100 shots on D as long as they're the ones we want, because those shots down the alley, those are turnovers in my book. You get your goalies to play good angles. You get your goalies to hang in there and learn how to track the alley shots and make big saves on those, which are typically your lowest percentage shot, like we just talked about. And I want to give up those types of shots. So even if those shots come frequently and constantly, that's what we're looking for. So just to kind of like give you the flip of this whole philosophy, that's what my mind's telling me on defense. But yeah, I mean, absolutely, definitely getting to the middle on the offensive side of the ball, getting your stick upfield, and increasing your percentages. And, these are all pieces that I think make this kind of two-man philosophy successful. And I saw a stat, I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was essentially just giving you the value of a Canadian in the men's side.
Yeah.
And have you seen that one?
Yeah, this guy, Michael Mobison, I actually did a webinar with him a couple weeks ago, and, sum it up from 10 years of statistical analysis on Canadians shooting percentages versus U.S. players shooting percentages. And this would be Canadian/native, so box players.
Right.
The Canadians shot at 34%. The Americans shot at 28%. And this is consistent over the course of 9 years within fractions. 1 year it might be 34.1 and 28.2, right, but it's basically the same. And honestly, probably the main reason is because they shoot with their sticks to the middle. That's they don't take bad shots.
That's it. And I want to say I got that name from you maybe a year or so ago. And I want to say I saw an article that he might have done that literally was this. Sounds like he replicated it on your thing.
Wax power.
There you go. Yes, correct. And in all honesty, for anyone that's listening, that was it. That to me, that in a nutshell, I was like, wow, there it is right there. I mean, because they do play that strong-handed model. All right, now listen, do they shoot on smaller cages? Yes. Do they shoot on bigger goalies? Yes. So I think those things have a bit of it, influence to this as well, for sure. But that's what everyone sees. That's kind of like, oh, well, they shoot on, but yeah, okay, so they do that. But also look at the shots they are getting compared to the ones that most of the Americans are getting. That is going to do it more so. And we've replicated with Americans and seen that it goes up. So I mean, no doubt. That was incredible, eye-opening for me seeing that, for sure.
I think the shooting percentages at Northwestern went way up.
I want to say about 8 to 10,
if
I remember correctly. And that's
some kids, honestly, it was like 30% to 50%.
Yeah, it might have been.
Yeah.
It might have been. I mean, and that's monster numbers. Monster.
When people talk about the bigger goalies and smaller nets, and so of course you would need to be more accurate or more deceptive. But honestly, what it really has to do with is that you never take an alley shot; it'll never go.
Correct.
That's in the end. It's the fact that it's that whole game. It's easier to. You got to get to the middle. You got to have your stick to the middle. You got to be able to shoot when you don't see the net.
Yep.
You have to be able to kind of shoot around your defender. It's easier to get there without the ball than it is with the ball. And these are all the things that, are almost the exact opposite of how, U.S. kids grow up playing boys and girls lacrosse, where it's just a pure clear out of the way, dodge, run down the alley and shoot, on a huge net with a tiny little goalie that's, the size
100%. 100%. And like we both have said, and me and you say this all the time, we're like, hey, nothing again. It works, great. Like it works for some people and everything. And I awesome. Everyone's got their own principles, philosophies, but any edge, I'm going to take any edge. And when I saw these numbers and these things kind of, come about and watch, what could happen by creating a mini advantage, by making communication happen, getting your stick up the field, getting a good high quality percentage shot from the middle of the field, it was no brainer. It was actually a no brainer. It was very hard to defend too. So I did the D over there and played against a ton of 2-man over the last few years as a coach of the D. And it was hard. I mean, that area of the field, right? You think like, I call it like elbow extended area of the field to initiate from. That's a tough spot to guard from. You have options to take it underneath. You have options to take it over the top. So you're giving yourself just a lot of field to work with. Then you add the communication piece, and then you add the high percentage shot that you're ultimately going to get. And it's hard. So I think all those things come together. That's what I'm going to look to kind of install and push forward for sure.
Talk to me a little bit about your philosophy on player development. I mean, obviously you can, not every kid you recruit is going to come in having played a ton of 2-man game. Do you think you can teach it? And how are you going to teach all the skills involved?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's kind of like, right, where my mind's been, because, right, I'm inheriting kids now, right? We haven't had a chance to kind of recruit for this type of system. First things first, anyone this is just an honest, truthful thought of mine. You could get anybody to play this type of system. It's very simple. It's, it's something, if done properly, with the steps that I'm about to talk about, you could get a really, up and down athletic type team to kind of dial this in as well. So that's I think a big thought is that some people are like, well, I don't got the personnel. Yeah. Like you could get yourself there, no doubt. And I think the simplest way to put it is you got to start small. It's kind of like a part whole method where just dissect it. One thing that we kind of started with, and I've done this now in a couple of, camp events where I, do an 8-hour day and just kind of install this thing throughout the day and do a build up. And we start with legitimately just one individual player catching a ball and getting really comfortable in what I call a square up position, or some call double threat, which is just a low cradle, square stance to your defender. Think basketball. Think point guard at the top of the key, kind of just dribbling back and forth, assessing their defender. So I think, you got to start there, and that being comfortable in that area. I'll talk on the girl side more right now. A lot of girls want to catch the ball and go. They kind of have this like thought process of like, I got to move. We're going to try to strip that down initially. We're going to try to just slow them down, get comfortable in that double threat or that square up position, and, you know, good stick protection, and then work our drifts and drags, which are just little shuffles, subtle back pedals, you know, and just comfort in that area. I tell them you should almost get to a point when you're doing it on your own that you feel a little uncomfortable there. So that's the first thing. Then you layer it, and I've done it where I go to a 2-on-0. So now you got, you know, just two players kind of on air, no D, and you run through your little system, in which case you could do a pass down, pick down, whatever kind of concept you're starting with, that's what you're going to implement there. And just trying to give them a couple of different reads, teach them, you know, what a slip is, when you use a slip, you know, teach them more to like pick an area, good pick angles, right? That's huge. The angle of your pick. Where's the dodger going to be going? Are you giving them an angle to fade them? Are you giving them an angle to actually get to the middle? So like just dialing in those angles of like your shoulders and how you're going to set that pick. Picking an area as opposed to a girl. A lot of girls want to go set a pick on a player. They go right to the hip and just kind of stand there. So just kind of being more loose with, all right, just get to this spot. Let this player, as long as your angle is appropriate, let the offensive player utilize you as opposed to you going to them. So those are things you're looking for in the 2-on-0. And then you add another player, you go 2-on-1. Now so you're going to guard the ball carrier. Let the ball carrier get comfortable squaring her up, you know, a little back pedal, drift, drag. Let the pick develop, and then you go under or you go over. So now you're starting to make your decisions. You know, when do you go over? Okay. When she starts to play me towards my bottom hip, when do you go over? When she plays me upfield. So now you're throwing in a decision. And I think decisions is going to be a common word now throughout the rest, because the more decisions they make, right, the less you stop this type of drill, the better they're going to get. These kids are smart, you know, they have good feeling. A lot of them are athletic, and there are some kind of principles that you want to stop and teach, you know, and go over pretty closely, but you know, let them make decisions. Once you kind of, you know, give them a simple 2 cents of it all, let them have to get out and make decisions. Once you're finished with the 2-on-1s, you could throw in 2-on-2. So now you got the picker being guarded, you got the on-ball girl being guarded, and, you know, you're starting to include some communication now with the D. Now this is when you start to say, like, okay, I could slip because I'm the picker. My girl played me a little bit. She sloughed off me, you know, looking for the switch. I'm going to slip out early. You know, so you're starting to, you know, even greater incorporate some of those decisions. And then in all honesty, I won't go through the whole progression, but it's just in a nutshell, you're going up one and then you're matching it. Then you're going up one and then you're matching it. So you'd go from a 2-on-2 to a 3-on-2. Then you can incorporate a 3-on-3, 4-on-3. And at that point, you're starting to utilize your sides. You got you're incorporating, you got your right-handed side, you got your left-handed side, and you're starting to, you know, drill those concepts, philosophies that we just described with the higher percentage. Why do we do this, and how to get there, until you kind of structure it and you have your base offense. I said it before, but we were able to implement something like this in an 8-hour section of a clinic, and with kids who have never played with each other before. And I watched them go from, you know, literally a 1-person square up to playing 7-man box style offense. And we did it in 7.5 hours. The last half hour they played, and they were very, very successful, and they understood it. So it's a simple model, and it's a good buildup, and that's kind of the progression. Obviously, you know, within that, as you asked, just skills, you're doing a lot of in college, we have the ability to do a lot of individuals, you know, grab people on the side when we think they need help, bring them extra, watch film with them. You know, these are things that we're going to be doing with these guys. But, you know, as far as youth and high school go, take your 2 hours and just drill it, start small, part, and then get to your hole and let them play, let them make decisions. Don't continue to blow the whistle every 2 minutes.
Yeah. Do you think that 2-man game is going to be on the rise in Division I women's lacrosse?
Yeah. So 2 years ago, we started playing this, and at Northwestern when I was coaching at Northwestern, and I want to say I will just go out on a limb and say we were the only team playing this type of style.
Kind of like, not that no one ever set a pick, but basically you guys that's all you were doing.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So last year, I would say we played against 3 teams and then watched maybe an additional 1 or 2 that were starting to get there. And not that was their entire thing, but you could see some kind of, consistency on like, that looks a little familiar, right? And it's starting to go in that direction. And then, yeah, I mean, I think so. That's 4 teams there. I think in the next 5 years, I don't want to say if you're not playing it, you're going to be behind, but almost. Now a lot of these teams are really, really good, athletic, up and down, and they could beat you on the first step. So, maybe, but nonetheless, you make it a little bit easier on yourself. And I would go out on a limb and say that, in the next 5 years, you're going to see the majority of teams playing this type of style for sure. I've seen it trickle down to the club. I've seen it trickle down to the clubs, and that's, probably, I would assume, a product of watching it on TV, seeing stuff that they were doing and, replicating it. Oh, wow. Like, we could do this. And I know, Syracuse has kind of their flip system, and which is more same kind of philosophy of getting to the middle a bit and weave type scenarios, and a lot of clubs using that stuff. So yeah, when you start to see it trickle down to that level, those girls now just have it, right? So by the time they get to you, it's almost natural to keep it.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, and back to those stats, if in men's lacrosse and those MLL stats, in every behind, wing, and out top, in every single quadrant, 2-man game had a higher percentage than isolation. And interestingly, the highest percentage was short to short in men's lacrosse, that had a whopping 35% short to short from the wings. Think about the Dallas Rattlers and these Canadian guys. In women's lacrosse, it's always short to short.
Yeah.
Some people would say, well, why? It should be easier short to short because, if it's long to short, you might want to try to keep a matchup. Short to short, you can just switch it. But that's when the slips end up killing you.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's cool stuff, man.
That is.
Let's talk. Let's change gears for a second here to recruiting. Where are you guys at, and what's your overall philosophy on recruiting? And then tell us about your upcoming prospect is.
Totally. So right now we're kind of in the middle of evaluating everybody. Obviously trying to add a couple of 2020s, looking down the pipe at some 21s come, September 1st, excited to get a first full class in and start that whole process. As far as what we're looking for, I really like to recruit the families. So I try to recruit really good kids, good families. Obviously now establishing kind of style of play, looking for people who could fit this model a bit. Some skilled players. You obviously can't have one type of person, right? So you're going to have to kind of supplement that, get some athletes in there as well. So, I'm not going to pigeonhole ourselves into one type of player, but people that could definitely, you could see starting to, have the ability to adapt to this type of style. And then, I think the biggest piece to the whole thing is just getting people who love the sport, right? Getting people who love this game, who have an extreme passion for the sport and, want to watch it, in their free time and want to study it and play pickup like we talk about a lot and do these things that are like the in-between, okay? Every kid is showing up on Saturday and going to Field 5 and playing their game, right? But there's a few of those kids that are watching the college games, going out and, taping these games and replaying them and trying to study. And, simple question is just like, who do you look up to, right? Like, who are some of the players? Give me some of the players that you like to look up to. If the kid has 3 answers to that question, that they're watching this stuff, that they're watching the pro games, they're following college. And the kids that kind of are a little bit stumped by something like that, maybe they're not doing that as much, so just getting people who want to be around the game. I think that creates what I said before, which is creating the best 2 hours of the day. When you get a group of kids who love this, like I just mentioned, they're going to enjoy every practice. They're going to, give it their best effort. They're going to buy into everything that you're trying to teach them. They're going to want to come in and do extra film and do the extra work to be great. So right now, that's kind of what we're looking for. That's the stuff that we're looking to piece together, and we're excited to do that. I think we got a lot of good kids, I like to be diverse as well. I think that having a diverse roster is really, really huge. You get different experiences. I let these kids be individuals. And how many times could you, be a kid from, New York, let's say, and have a kid in the locker next to you from Kansas, right? Here, you could do that right now. We have a couple of kids from out there, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You could be next to a kid from Washington State, and head up there, and in the past, kids that I've coached, you could be from a kid from British Columbia. So, and that diversity kind of just brings a sense of like individual to, I want everyone to be themselves. I don't want everyone to be one type of person. And I think that helps kind of push the culture along. And that's something I'm looking to continue to replicate. I think that's pretty cool about our locker room right now. As far as prospect days goes, I'm still dialing in a date, looking to be late October, and probably do some satellite stuff. I got a date in late September for something like that. But, that stuff will all be kind of coming in the next couple of weeks as we continue to get our stuff organized over here. And, excited for all that. Like I said, just to get people out here, get kids out here, parents out here, club coaches, clubs, and see this place is really, really high on my list, because it really is just such a special, unique place and setting that I'm so excited to show it off and have people come out and see what we're all about, get to know our staff as coaches and people, and myself, and continue to develop the relationships and hopefully, create something really, really awesome.
Is it the kind of place that all you got to do is get somebody there and they're going to fall in love with it?
You hit the nail on the head, right? I mean, it is that cliche stands true here. It's something that you hear it a lot, but this is true. This is actually, you'll step out here, we're 11 minutes from the airport. I mean, so quick drive, you're on campus, and, just walking around, seeing what we have to offer. We're getting a new stadium built, in particular for the lacrosse team right now. So that's just amazing. So exciting. And getting the locker room kind of revamped and doing some really fun, cool things. So it is that type of place for sure.
I have a question about recruiting as it relates to recruiting defenders. A lot of people think that coaches only look at middies, and they're only going to recruit middies, and they'll make them into defenders or make them into attackers. Is there truth to that, or are you looking for kids that are athletes and can cover, and you're going to be able to identify them, whether they play D or mid?
I'll speak for myself on that front. And what I will say is that you cannot measure the value of recruiting true defenders. One of the reasons why, and I don't know if I'm still figuring out if this is like the number one reason why, but it's very high up there, is because they take such ownership in that position and pride in doing it and covering people. And hey, this is what I do. I lock you down, right? For 60. This is kind of how I play. When the loose ball comes down, I get it up the field, and we're out. And just it's hard to replicate that sense of pride with a former middie who's used to going up and down and scoring goals and being in the paper and doing all this stuff. So again, I don't know if that's the number one reason. Probably also because they just get a ton of reps too, right? I mean, they're constantly they're not splitting the reps half and half. They're playing D. So in practice, in their one-on-one sessions, they're playing defense. And I think, there's so much to be said for that. And that's just myself. I don't know about others. And I will echo the same for attack, just it's the same thing. If you get a skilled attackman, I said it before, you can't recruit one person, right? If you had a bunch of really up and down fast midfielders, what's your product, realistically? I mean, yeah, you'll be good, you'll be sufficient, but you're not going to be able to hit the kid that has the hands in tight, to a really small area, or a great pick setter who's able to read it and slip and, set a good solid angle pick. Like, these things matter. And I think, getting your good attackers and hands players and, deceptive skill guys that's enormous. And same thing on the other end, right? Your D that just takes ownership and pride in covering and coming up with ground balls and getting up the field. That, I don't think you could put value to those things.
I agree, man. And, the mentality of being able to be a defender, like
Yes.
you said, I mean, that's just a mentality, and not everyone has it.
I agree.
Maybe could have it, but they also might just be wishing they were playing offense. And that's like the worst, when you need them to be a lockdown defender. All they want to do is score goals.
You got it.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on here and answer these questions and share your past and your vision for the future. I wish you the best of luck, Tim. You've got a great thing going, and I can't wait to watch you build it.
Thanks a lot, Jamie. Thanks for having me on. Really looking forward to it all, and hopefully you could get out here sometime soon.
I will, man. We'll be in touch.
All
All right, buddy.
right. See you.
That's it.
The Lacrosse podcast is brought to you in part by the JM3 Lacrosse Academy. This 10-week online program is designed to teach cutting-edge lacrosse skills and IQ. Athletes will learn dozens of new techniques, creative drills, X's and O's, and most importantly, how to integrate it all into their game. To learn more or start getting better today, go to www.jm3sports.com/academy.